Sunday, aside from starting my podcast again after a month hiatus. The podcast is horribly off topic. You should be a subscriber if you're not. That's clarkwoods.com/hot or wherever you get your podcasts. Aside from restarting Hot with my pal Steve, I spent a lot of time on the phone with Apple tech support. And the reason for that is that my Photos application on both of my Macs, both my iMac and my MacBook Pro, was crashing while viewing my latest photos from the last couple of weeks. Not something that I'd experienced before, at least in this fashion. I've experienced photos and iPhoto problems in the past. I've had to rebuild my libraries in the past. It's a thing that's sort of par for the course with Apple's photo management stuff. It generally speaking works really well, and then it doesn't. So I spent some time on the phone with them. I did not disclose that I used to work at Apple to this particular group of people. I didn't want to let that influence things. I explained what I'd done. I didn't want to come across as that guy who thinks he knows what he's doing when he might not, because it's been a while since I worked for the company, and maybe I don't know all of the things, the steps, the whatever. So they took me through a bunch of things, and we tried a bunch of things. But eventually, what I decided on was to just try and rebuild my library from scratch in a different way, right? So I use the iCloud photo library, which means that the canonical versions of all of my photos are stored up in iCloud. So I just created a brand new library in Photos, which is something that you can do. And I synced that one up with my iCloud photo library as opposed to the old one, and started re-downloading everything. And by this morning, everything was fine. Now everything opens. So I canceled my most recent phone call with Apple support this morning because everything was working. But I honestly, if I had to peg a reason for why everything started fucking up in the first place, I would say it had something to do with all of the various apps that I've been using to try and mess around with photos. So aside from the normal Photos app on my iPhone, so I've been using, I think it's called Halide or Halide, which is a great app for separating your exposure from your focus. I had another one like that from the people at Moment, whose lenses I've been using. I've been trying all this stuff, and I just feel like one of those photos probably gunked up the works on the Mac side of the Photos app, because the iOS Photos app, no problem with it whatsoever. I don't know exactly what happened. It's fixed. But all of this leads me back to my tendency to know just enough about technology to screw it up. This is why I became a Mac user in the first place. I had too many, aside from the fact that just the OS appealed to me and the integration of software and hardware appealed to me, one of the main reasons back in 2007 that I switched over was that I had too many Windows PC towers that I had messed up by trying to tinker with them. And I wanted an iMac for a lot of reasons, but one of them was so that I could not possibly get inside there and screw it up. And that has worked out pretty well for me. But this desire of mine to get better at photos and to go beyond the stock Photos app, I think it's, not that I'm going to give up on Filmic Pro, which I use for video, or on Halide, which I've been using for photos. It's just I have to be careful. And as I've been investigating, how to get more serious about photos from a sort of pro-am point of view, I'm not looking to become a professional photographer, just a more talented amateur. Or more well-practiced amateur or whatever, maybe not talented. as I've been looking at all of this stuff, the app that keeps coming up is the app Lightroom from Adobe. Now, I'm not a big fan of Adobe or their particular suite of products. I don't hate them, but it's not a suite of products that I want to get involved in because they are very resource intensive. On your computers, they are constantly updating. They need to put something in your fucking menu bar if you're on the Mac. Just one more thing up there. I'd rather keep my computing life simple. And yet, it seems like Lightroom is the place to go because lots of these photographers that are out there that I'm sort of viewing their Instagram profiles or their YouTube channels, lots of these folks offer Lightroom presets to get your photos to look as good as theirs. Once you've got the composition and all of the basic photo stuff down, they offer these presets, which are kind of filters of a kind. So it seems like Lightroom is where all of these people want you to go. Of course, it's where they want you to go because they want you to buy their Lightroom presets. But it also seems like it's the most robust of the sort of photo management things. And yet, I found that in just playing around for a little while, I could accomplish a lot of the same stuff by just tinkering with Photos, because Photos, the Mac app, has gotten that comes with macOS, has gotten a lot more sophisticated in that regard. It's taken on a lot of the old features from Aperture, which was Apple's pro photography program for a while, and it ties in with my iCloud photo library, which syncs to everywhere, syncs to my Apple TVs, syncs to my iPhone. Keep it simple, stupid is a thing that I've forgotten in my pursuit of trying to get better at photography and videos, and I need to remember it. I do.